I quit my job almost a year now of being out of the rat race and really building this generational wealth and legacy for our family. A marathon is very hard, but when you're out there for 4+ hours, 5+ hours, or running overnight by yourself in the mud, in the heat, the humidity, the rain, the cold, whatever it is, and you start to build this mental grit. He called me and I gave him my offer, and I could literally hear him breathing on the phone like, okay, wasn't expecting that. And I wanted to keep talking, but I was quiet, and he just said, okay.
Welcome to the Rehab with Ehab podcast. My name is Ehab Shukri, aka Rehab with Ehab on Instagram, and I am super excited to introduce my guest today, one of my star students, Alberto Medellin. I like the Spanish flair.
I like the Spanish flair too.
Man, Alberto, great to have you here today. Super excited. You have just been a rock star student and have been off to an amazing quick start in the real estate investing world, man. Tell everyone just a little bit about you and like your background and what you do.
Yeah, great. First off, happy to be here.
Awesome.
Happy to be the first guest. That's pretty awesome. And also the first student to achieve financial freedom through your program. In IT for about 25 years, in the rat race, and decided about 3 years ago to start in researching real estate investing, and knew a couple house flippers, did some of my own research, really wasn't getting anywhere, and linked up with you through Jet Lending, as a matter of fact, and went through the forums, found you through Jet Lending, reached out through Bigger Pockets, and I remember it. I tell people this story all the time. It was a Sunday afternoon. I had already been looking for deals for about 3 or 4 months, right? Some people look for deals for 2 or 3 years, but I've been 3 or 4 months and just banging my head against the wall, called you, and little did I know you were interviewing me because you were starting this program. And at the end of the conversation, you told me about the program and talked to my wife about it. She's always been supportive, and signed up the next day. And that was in August. I was looking up some old emails. I think it was like August 10th of 2020. And hit the ground running. Your program has been instrumental and key in helping me with my mindset. 2.5 years later, we just closed on selling our latest flip, and that was deal number 16.
Wow,
for
amazing.
us. Yeah, and I quit my job in July of last year, so almost a year now of being out of the rat race and really building this generational wealth and legacy for our family.
You know, one thing I've really noticed about you is you have that ambition, you have that passion. You're a ultra marathon runner, and I'm sure a lot of that played a part in your mindset and your mental toughness as a real estate investor.
For sure, yeah, for sure. I started ultra running in 2014, right, which is actually around the time that I met my wife too, Julia. And I've run some, I've never really liked running. Let me just start off by saying that. Yeah. I wasn't athletic in high school. I was a little chubby, short Mexican kid in high school. Didn't really do any exercise, ate whatever I wanted. And then around 2012, I started running. Ran a 5K, then ran a 10K, started doing like Tough Mudders and Spartan races, things like that, and really getting connected to this community. And doing those mud runs, you start to kind of build this mental grit. Because it's hard, it's not just going to the gym for 30 minutes and lifting some weights and you go home and drink a protein shake, right? You're out there in the mud, in the heat, the humidity, the rain, the cold, whatever it is, and you start to build this mental grit. And that just kind of morphed right into ultra running 50Ks, right? 31 miles. Anything over 26.2 is considered an ultra marathon.
Okay.
But typical distances are 50Ks, 50 milers, and 100 milers. They even have 250 milers.
Wow.
Yeah. So in the summer of 2014, ran my first 60K, and there were 4 of them back to back over the course of about 4 months. And I just got hooked. Nice. And I got hooked in where it took my mind. Is running a 5K, yeah, it can be hard. A half marathon can be hard. A marathon is very hard. But when you're out there for 4+ hours, 5+ hours, or running overnight by yourself, your mind just really gets stripped away of all of the mess, right? All of the noise of your job, you know, some family issues or financial issues, and you're just left with yourself, right? And in my case, like myself and God, right? And just figuring out who I really was. You strip all that part away, and I love that feeling.
Yeah,
it hurts, right? I don't seek the pain, but I'm not afraid of the pain.
It's interesting that you say, you didn't like running when you got started, because so many people hear the expression of, chase your passion or do the things you love. But, the reality is that when you're doing something that you're not good at in the beginning, it's hard to really love it, and, that could be a little bit misleading when people say chase your passion. The real passion, the real love comes as you really start to master it. And I think that's something that people who really want to be aspiring real estate investors or aspiring ultra marathon runners need to understand, is that, it's going to take some time, and the more you do it and the more you perfect it, the better you'll get at it and the more you'll really love doing it. So tell me about your journey. Like, you've done some flips, you have short-term rentals, long-term rentals. Tell me, what did that road look like to you achieving financial freedom?
Right. So like I said, we started back in August of 2020, and literally I think the next week I was looking at a property, or I got a lead from Facebook, and I called you. I remember I called you and I was ready to make an offer $5,000 over what the wholesaler was asking for. Because I had put in a couple offers with other wholesalers, and they were lowball. They were a little bit lower than what they were asking, and obviously didn't get those deals. So I was ready to overpay on this thing already. And it was kind of sight unseen. So the wholesaler had posted a couple photos, and I looked at the street view. I knew the area because it was in Galveston. And I called you that morning. It was Friday morning, and the wholesaler was going to have a open house that following Saturday, the next day. And I said, Ehab, I'm looking at this property, and from my perspective, it's a total gut. Like, it is a dump. Everything, siding, roof, windows, plumbing, electrical, foundation, everything. And I'll probably have to add a garage or something, right? And I said, this wholesaler, we're gonna have an open house the next day, so I'm gonna go to that so I can go put eyes on it. And I remember you said, Alberto, you already know this is gonna be a full gut. What are you going to see at this open house that's going to change your mind? You're replacing everything. And we kind of did the numbers like on the phone, and you're just like, look, it's this much square foot. I know how much this costs. I know how much this costs. You want to do the garage, that's going to be this. And you know what? Let me call Chris. Let me call him, our contractor, and see if he can do this deal with you, right? If he can work on it for you. But you said, look, call this wholesaler, make him an offer right now. Like, tell him how much you want. Just offer him list, and then be quiet. Like, just let him talk.
Yeah, I think the advice, I remember that conversation. It was so interesting is, the wholesaler had it priced right. So many times they don't have it priced right. They have it overpriced. But I think in this case, he had it priced right, and you knew it was going to be a full renovation. The price was pretty good where you needed to be. And I told you, don't wait for the open house. Call this guy up today and tell him you want the property. Beat out all those other people before the open house even happens. And that's what you did, and that's what you got the deal, right?
Right, because if I would have waited, right, I had all that competition then at that point. So I reached out to the wholesaler and said, hey, can you call me? He called me, and I gave him my offer, which was for the list price, and he was surprised. He thought I was going to ask him more questions about the house. And I was quiet, and I could literally hear him breathing on the phone like, okay. Wasn't expecting that. And I wanted to keep talking, but I was quiet, and he just said, okay.
Yeah.
And then at that point, my heart starts racing, right? Adrenaline's going up. And I asked him, I was like, well, what do I do next? What's next? He goes, look, I'm going to send you over the assignment contract. Just take the earnest money over to the title company in Galveston. And I was thinking, okay, I've got to get it there now. And I was at work. So I called my wife, said, babe, you got to go, come pick up a check. I got the checkbook in my truck. Come pick up the check, take it to Galveston, drop it off. She got there at like 4:45. They closed at 5.
Wow.
But I talked to the wholesaler. I was like, man, it's okay. Like, you could have, I trust you. We just signed the contract. You could have taken it on Monday. I'm like, no, I want to lock this up.
Yeah.
Right. So we locked it up. And honestly, the deal was a great deal. It was priced appropriately. We ended up listing it for more than we had originally analyzed it for. So we made a little bit more on that. It didn't really go over budget that much. Working with Chris was pretty good. Got it done relatively quickly for a full gut. What was interesting, though, we're talking about this journey is, and this mindset that you teach, and the mindset that I brought to the program is 2 weeks later, we got our second property under contract.
Nice.
So that was scary, right? And you would think as a new investor, wow, have 2 full gut remodels going on at the exact same time.
Yeah.
And having the support of good contractors, people who I know weren't going to steal money from me, right, or not do a good job, and having the support of the group and the community where I could ask questions and just kind of hold my hand along the way. Because I told you that in our initial call, I can bake a cake, a box cake, like nobody's business, right? It tells me, put this many eggs, put this much oil, put this much water, preheat your oven, right? It's a step-by-step process. And that's what your program provided to me, was I needed step-by-step, because I had all this information, right? But you gave the instructions. So then from there, right, that we had the first flip, and then that second property we got under contract, that ended up being our first long-term rental, which we still hold right now. And it cash flows like $750 a month. And that's almost unheard of for single family.
Yeah, that's
but we
incredible.
got it at a really good price because it was a dump. It was in really, really rough shape. Foundation issues. We've obviously a lot of that stuff in Houston, up in 77033. A lot of people familiar with that zip code. We gutted it, replaced electrical, plumbing. Roof was in okay condition. And then we got some solid renters in there. And at the time we had the highest rent in the neighborhood. Oh. And our realtor that we're using at that time was kind of a little skeptical at first. She goes, well, maybe we listed at $1,250. And I said, look, why don't we list it at $1,350? If we don't have any feedback in a week, we'll drop it. Let's just see, right? Take your shot.
Yeah.
We listed it at $1,350, and within a week we had about 5 applicants, and at the end of that week we had already chosen one.
That's awesome.
It was a young couple, and they stayed there for 2 years.
That's great, man.
So
That's
even
great.
through rent increases, and then from there we just grew. We've done several flips. We've done a wholesale deal. We've done a hotel deal where we took ownership and then we ended up just selling it on the open market without making any repairs. And we own 4 short-term rentals in Galveston. We just completed our most profitable flip here. We just closed on that on Monday. That was awesome. Yeah, and we're still looking, right? We're partnering with people. We have private money lender network now as well, and we're looking to really expand into small multifamily at this point.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, the road to financial freedom, it's different from just kind of being a hobby investor and owning, a couple of properties on the side. It really is a road you have to navigate and figure out the money part of it and the strategy part of it too. Mm-hmm. So, I think you've done a great job of that. And, you've picked the right moves when you've needed to, right? When you need to kind of replenish your cash, you did some flips to make money or some wholesales. Mm-hmm. When you had more cash available, it was more of a time to buy and hold, mm-hmm. So you were able to kind of create a nice balance with short-term rentals, long-term rentals, and really, navigate the waters. That's pretty mm-hmm. incredible. So when you go to these networking events, you see so many people that are trying to get their first deal and want to be financially free real estate investors, but you actually were able to do it. What do you think the real key tip would be that you could give somebody who hasn't figured it out yet and is trying to figure out how to become financially free and build a real estate business?
I'm going to be biased. I have a biased answer. And you hear so often on podcasts, YouTube videos, and you can go to YouTube University, and learn how to wholesale or learn how to flip or learn about Airbnbs. There's a lot of really awesome Airbnb operators that are on YouTube. They put out a ton of free content. They're also selling a mentorship and coaching program too. Mm-hmm. But I would say if you have the capital to get started, I would hire a coach, whether that's you or some mentor, someone who is actually doing it, who's in the business. Yeah. Because one of the examples that I brought up with you as well on our first call was our son at the time was into basketball, right? And he was wanting to learn how to be better. And we hired a coach. We hired a private coach for him. Mm-hmm. And I sat back and I asked myself, am I that arrogant to think that here's something completely new with thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars on the line, right? Our little cash nest egg that we kind of built up outside of our retirement funds. Am I so arrogant to think that I can do this on my own? That I can learn how to do this through listening to podcasts and watching YouTube? Yes, I could, but I think it would have taken a very long time to do that. Yeah. So getting connected with the right mentor, right? Doing your due diligence to figure out those people, who they are, getting connected there. I think that's super important. That's how anyone I think can be successful. Having that mindset as well. And that's why I love the program as well. I know I'm going to keep harping on it, but is the first thing that you talk about in the modules is mindset, because you have to have the right mindset or begin to have the right mindset. Yeah. Maybe you don't have it when you come in, right? But it can be taught, through, starting your day looking at wealth type TikToks, right? Real estate type TikToks, mindset type TikToks, YouTube, Instagram, 10 or 15 minutes, first thing, fill your mind with that, and you can start to reprogram it.
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing I've realized is that, we are where we are because of the type of person we are, right? And so if we want to change the trajectory of our lives, we have to kind of change who we are too, right? Mm-hmm. How we think about money, the things that we're doing every day, just going to a job and showing up is not going to get you wealthy for most people. So you've got to change that narrative. You got to change that story and do something different. And so building that side hustle, investing in yourself and your education, investing in your skills, learning skills that can lead to financial freedom, right? Like some jobs just don't get you there, right? I mean, it's just the truth. And you have to learn the skills that will ultimately get you to financial freedom. I know I've had some mentors and in my day, and some of the best advice they gave me when they talked about their mentorship program is there's a difference between information and instruction. And you mentioned YouTube University, but a lot of these websites out there where you can get free information is just giving you that. It's just giving you information. It's not giving you step-by-step instruction, which is really what people need to be actionable and start building their businesses, right? And so that's the difference I found with mentorship versus just trying to get things from YouTube or Instagram or even read a book, right? So your short-term rentals are in Galveston. It's a beach city. Tell us about that. How's owning short-term rentals in a beach city like Galveston?
Challenging. So you get full transparency from me.
Yeah,
it is challenging. Galveston's a very seasonal market, unlike Houston. And I think Houston does have its seasons. They're just not as extreme as Galveston. So summertime, really, and a few pockets of they're called compression events where they're like the Lone Star Rally, for instance, in November. You got Mardi Gras in February, then spring break in March, and then things kind of start to ramp up. But most of your income is going to happen May, June, July. Right around when school starts, you start to have your occupancy starts to drop and your mortgages don't go down, right? So having all of our eggs in one basket there has been a challenge, and we're right now assessing, like you mentioned before, it's about determining what's the best course of action. And so we have one of our short-term rentals on the market right now for sale, just to reduce our exposure there and really focus on other markets. I like Galveston. Galveston holds my heart, and so because I'm from there, and I know the market very well. Location is super important, but I think too, if you do an amazing renovation and you set your property apart in some unique way, then location doesn't matter as much. So we've got, we're Superhost. We've been Superhost since we were able to become Superhost for over a year. It's a hospitality industry. You know that. If you're doing it like we do self-managing. It's not passive, but it's not too active either, right? And I don't know if we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the podcast, but running everything on the software and automating things and putting systems in place can make it almost passive.
Yeah. Well, you bring up a great point because I think, you've heard about this Airbnb bust phenomenon that's going on. And I certainly have my opinions about it. But what do you think is the difference between people who really are able to make it with their short-term rental business versus people who are just dropping out from the whole short-term rental market? What's the difference between successful operators and not so successful?
I think mindset has a big thing to do with it, is being able to be mentally tough and accept some of the hardships that come, right? And not just cut and run whenever there's a problem. You have to be disciplined. You have to be consistent. Like a lot of people that are leaving the market, especially in Galveston, that area, they were looking at numbers from 2020, 2021, and into 2022. We were locked down for so long, or for however long it was in 2020, and then the floodgates were open. And you had this big uptick in travel, and people just wanted to get out, and people didn't want to go to hotels, right? They didn't want to be that close to others. They wanted to have their own house. And I think a lot of people that got in the market in 2022, like ourselves included, we were looking at numbers from 2020 and 2021 and thinking, oh, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to make a ton of money, right? And for a lot of operators, it just didn't work out that way. I think having cash reserves is super important, or having a backup plan at least to kind of refund or fund those cash reserves, because you're going to have a lot of slow time in Galveston at least. So I think that's kind of the difference. Right now, we're fully booked. We're fully booked through the whole summertime at this point, 2 months out. And that's amazing. That wasn't happening last summer. So we're seeing an uptick in our occupancy ahead of time with the lead times increasing.
Well, and I'll give you more credit too. I mean, the other thing I think that allows you to stand out is you have pretty incredible properties. Like you hired an interior designer on your deals. I mean, they have a really cool, cohesive design. You obviously remodel them really well because you do that before you interior design them. So I think you have awesome standout properties too because of the work that you've done and the decor that you put together too.
Yeah, right. That's a big part of it too, is having the right design, providing the right amenities. And you can do this research. This is all market research. You know, you can use the enemy mode, which is basically looking at what other Airbnbs are offering in your area, right? And you want to be either the same or above what they're offering. And that's your competition. So offering the right amenities, also being attentive, right? A lot of the automations count, but we were very attentive to our guests. You know, any small issue, we either have people on site or not on site, but in the area that can help out with last minute things, or something might break, or I'm down there, right? We're only about 20 minutes away.
Yeah.
And something that may seem like a very big deal to the guest takes me about 20 or 30 minutes to complete, right? It's not a big deal to me, but it can make a difference to them. But having the right design, yes, providing the right amenities, you know, you can kind of weather some of these storms.
Yeah, going that extra mile to get that 5-star review.
For sure.
For sure. I tell people there are 3 levels to the short-term rental business. There's the Walmart, the Target, and the Nordstrom. And I think there was a time where you could be a Walmart and still be profitable, right? You could go to IKEA, you could buy cheap furniture, you can furnish it for really cheap and still make money. But as we've gotten more competitive, you know, people are looking for a higher standard, right? They're looking for those amenities, they're looking for extra options. And you want to be somewhere between Target and Nordstrom with your short-term rental, because those are the ones that are going to thrive and stand out at the end of the day.
Yeah. One more thing I might add about the beach environment, right? That destination is, and Airbnb in general, is a market can tend to get saturated quickly, right? And that's kind of what happened in Galveston as well. There's a ton of short-term rentals, and a lot of operators are leaving the market. You know, we're seeing more properties that are listed for sale that are fully furnished, you know, and they're providing their financials, you know, so maybe a better operator can come in and run it better, or it just gets sold as a vacation home for a family. So,
yeah. You know, for people out there debating between doing short-term rentals or long-term rentals, or even some landlords out there that have long-term rentals and they're trying to figure out whether they should convert that property to a short-term rental, what do you say to people are the real benefits of owning short-term rentals over long-term rentals? Because I know you have both.
Right. The biggest benefit is cash flow, right? We're cash flowing anywhere from 2 to 3 times what we would normally cash flow with a long-term rental. Sometimes even more, sometimes 10 times more.
Right.
It just kind of depends on where that long-term rental is. That's been the biggest benefit, in my opinion. There is more work up front, I will say that, as opposed to a long-term rental. And again, it's a little bit more hands-on. You know, with my long-term rentals, we go there once a quarter to change the air filters. It gives us an opportunity to, you know, stay connected with our renters, right? And keep that communication and that relationship intact. And then also we can take a look at the property, make sure there's no illegal pets, or they're not parking cars in the yard, even though those neighborhoods probably won't allow it, but you know what I mean. And the short-term rentals do require a little bit more work, right? I'm there maybe once a week. Just inspecting our cleaners, doing things. So it's a little more hands-on, but that cash flow benefits a lot better.
Yeah, I think a lot of landlords would be envious of the fact that you go and check on yours every quarter. I know I haven't seen some of my long-term rentals in 5-6 years, which is not a good thing. So don't follow my advice when it comes to that. But just the fact that you do that is pretty incredible. Mm-hmm. So you were an IT guy, but it sounds like something inside you made you want to find something more with your life and really start thinking about financial freedom. Tell me about like when that all started and what you did to try to learn about real estate investing before getting mentorship.
I think it was a perfect storm. It was right around the pandemic started, and we had just started this Dave Ramsey plan, the baby steps, right? And getting ourselves out of debt. We didn't have a lot of debt. We had a couple credit cards, vehicles. I had some student loan debt, not a big deal. And my wife put us on this plan. We started doing the baby steps in 2019. And she said, by May of 2020, we're going to be debt free. All we're going to have is our mortgage. I was like, okay, cool. But then the pandemic hit. I was sent home to work from home for a week. She was sent home, and she's been working from home since then. But at that point in time, I was thinking to myself, and I sat down and I said, what if I lost my job? You know, I know we're on our way of getting out of debt. We have our retirement accounts, but do we have enough for me to like live on? We haven't gotten to that step where we save our 3 months of emergency funds. That's one of the steps. And so I said, our friends right here, one of our friends is flipping houses. Let me reach out to him. So I talked to him. he gave me some advice. I talked to someone at work and they told me about Bigger Pockets. And that kind of started my interest, listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos. I got connected with Jet Lending around May of that year. And I knew that there were coaches and gurus out there, right? Gurus, people who aren't really doing it.
Yeah.
Maybe they've done it, but they're not really doing it. And some of them were super expensive. I did a little bit of research, $10, $20, $30, $40,000, $50,000, or they want a cut of like your first 3 deals.
Right.
Yeah. And so when I found you through Jet Lending's flyby and we started talking, we had a lot of similarities. You were also in IT. And later I found out we're a few days apart in age. So, but that was a different story. And we connected there, right? And I told you what I wanted to do. You told me about the instruction versus the information versus instruction. And you gave me your rate at that point in time. And I went back and I talked to Julie. I started Googling some more. Well, what are other coaches charging? What do they do? And it's a great deal. Signed up. And to my surprise, you did what you said you were going to do.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I was surprised a little bit because I was just skeptical of someone that I met off of a Facebook, off of a Bigger Pockets forum.
Yeah.
And I was writing him a check for X amount of dollars, right? It's scary.
Yeah.
This guy could just disappear. But you were there, and your availability was, to me, the most important thing. Your lifetime access, right? Our weekly coaching calls. And since then, I've had other coaches and mentors reach out to me, offering me services, or I've went to webinars and they're offering their services and coaching mentorship programs afterwards. And I think to myself, are they really available the way you've been available to our entire program?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that really set your mentorship apart, right? And that's what really got me started.
Yeah, one of the things I realized quickly being a coach is that it's even less about the tactics and the tools and more about helping people grow to believe that they can be real estate investors. We certainly cover the tactics and the techniques and the right strategy, but ultimately what's going to drive your decisions and drive your path forward is going to be, who you are as a person. And I realized that I need to invest just as much time in helping people grow their mindset and growing their belief as I need to spend teaching them real estate after repaired values and repairs and all the technical components of it. So that's really great that you had that perspective. And I think your background and your mindset, especially being an ultramarathon runner, really helped you be successful in real estate as well.
You were talking about like making a good operator, right? And being in IT, right? But I also waited tables for many years before I was in IT.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another big part of the reason why I want to make sure like our guests do have this 5-star experience, and we're managing other people's properties as well. We're property managers for other Airbnb hosts. So I think we brought that to the table as well when we started this business. And even with our long-term tenants, right? It may be not as hands-on as what we're doing with the Airbnbs, but I still want to be sure like those long-term tenants, they have the best landlord. If they leave, they're going to compare every other landlord to us. Like we're setting the bar at that point. But I've always tried to strive for that level of success, never knowing if we're going to fall on our face or if we're going to fail, because I'm not successful at everything that I do, right?
Yeah.
But I try hard to be the best.
Yeah.
And I think being in hospitality, waiting tables, I was even a bellman for a period of time at a Holiday Inn, right? Running up meals, running up toothpaste, toothbrushes to the rooms when I was a lot younger. But I waited tables for 7 years and dealing with people face to face and dealing with difficult people, right? You just can't make everyone happy. But having that mindset and not getting bent out of shape whenever a guest is being unreasonable or they aren't seeing things the way you're seeing things with their stay. But at the end of the day, they paid the money and I want to make sure they have a good 5-star experience.
Yeah. Awesome. I know how incredible financial freedom can be and how incredible it feels, but I think people who haven't done it don't necessarily understand how much freedom you really get and what life really is like when you can live life on your terms and do the things that you love. Tell us what financial freedom means to you and what life is like now that you've been able to quit the 9 to 5 and do this full time.
I've got to mirror what you said in one of your reels here recently too. From the beginning, when I left my job, I was already doing real estate part-time while I was working. So I was doing things during lunches, after hours, on weekends. So we were already building this business while I was working. But leaving that 9 to 5 in the very beginning was scary. It was scary because when you work at a job, yes, you can get promoted and you might hit a ceiling, but you also have a floor, right? You don't have to be that great at your job and you're still going to get a paycheck. Mm-hmm. Being financially free, being an entrepreneur, you no longer have a floor. The ceiling is endless. It's no longer there. The more work you put in or systems that you put in or business, you can build your business as big as you want it to be, right? But that freedom can be scary having it in the beginning, but you get used to it, right? You get into a new routine, and the thought that every waking hour that I'm working in this business, I'm building something for my family and for generations to come. And now I'm able to help other people as well achieve financial freedom. Those things just mean so much more to me than going to a 9 to 5 and making someone else rich, building their dream, right? They were helping me build my dream, but it was just really, really slow.
Yeah.
So that freedom, scary at first, but it's been amazing. You know, I think the biggest part about achieving financial freedom is I wish I would have got started earlier. But being able, like our kids, like I have a 22-year-old, soon to be 19-year-old, and we have a 17-year-old. And they're very interested in what we're doing. And being able to impart this knowledge and this experience to them right now early, and being able to teach them about delayed gratification, because that's part of achieving financial freedom, is being able to delay gratification, right? In a world where we just want it now and instant gratification. Look, work hard, do everything you can for the next 10 years. And when your friends are paying mortgages and paying for daycare and doing all this crap, and you're picking up your kids from kindergarten, you're taking your kids to every soccer practice, every baseball practice, t-ball practice, because you're financially free.
Yeah.
Right? Put in the work now and you'll reap the benefits later.
Yeah. Entrepreneurship is doing the things that most people won't, so you can live the life that most people can't.
That's exactly right.
You know, it's so interesting what you said. You think about entrepreneurship as having no glass ceiling anymore. But the other thing I thought was really cool about what you said is it does expose you on the floor level if you're not good at what you do, right? Mm-hmm. You no longer, like with a job, you can just show up and do a good job or a bad job and get the same paycheck. But with entrepreneurship, if you try to start a business and you don't do it well, then things can really go south. Mm-hmm. So you have to make sure going in, you really know what you're doing so that you can really thrive and be the best in your area and in your business.
Right. And you have a plan. You go in with a plan and with a team.
Yeah. Awesome. Alberto, thanks for coming by, man. Really enjoyed talking to you. And any last words you want to tell people?
I think this whole experience has been pretty great. Haven't really been on a lot of podcasts, maybe a couple. This is cool. I hope this turns into something great as well for you and for me. Get connected with you with rehabwithehab.com. Look out for us because we're growing. We're looking for multifamily properties here in the Houston area, and just keep persevering, you know, wherever you are, whether you're just getting started or you're already in the business. And trust me, just keep your head down, keep working hard. You'll be successful.
Awesome, man. Thanks. Appreciate you.
Good deal.